Hey everyone, this is Adrian from my channel Random Drop. If you like our content, make sure to subscribe. We're more than halfway to 1,000 subscribers. From there, this channel's quality and content can grow quite significantly, and I hope that you stick around. But anyway, let's get back to the video. It's the 1980s in Kamurocho, Tokyo. An older gentleman walks to the back alleys of a disco, finding the building he's looking for. But when he enters, alarm bells, groans, and gunshots can be heard. He witnesses a man being murdered in cold blood, telling his assassin, "You lying dog, though I die, will live on." The witness hides around the corner, waiting for the murderer to leave the area. Once he does, he checks in on the shot man, who still has enough life to say, "My child," while pointing down a hallway. The man quickly hurries in that direction, but the rest of the building is on fire. After trying several rooms, he finds a young woman holding a baby, terrified for her life. The man tries to calm her down and drops his weapon, saying he's not one of them, while approaching the mother. But she's hysterical and rushes towards the window, attempting to kill herself along with their child. But the man slaps her and simply says, "The kid is innocent. Don't just throw away his life." Sirens then can be heard surrounding the building. And then we cut to 20 years later. It is now the year 2006. A group of Chinese gangsters attempt to shake down the Stardust Cabaret Club for money, but Yuya is able to fight them off. In the Millennium Tower, the incident is reported to the Kazuma family patriarch, Osamu Kashiwagi. He's asked if he wants to put more security in the area, but Kashiwagi says no, saying right now, anything could spark a war with the Omi clan. Kashiwagi wonders to himself, should they strike now or bait out the attack? Unknown to him, a few floors below, men concoct a plan to extract vengeance for 20 years ago. Fireworks that will set Kamurocho in flames. We then cut to Kiryu, waking up from a nightmare, still scarred from the trauma of losing his loved ones 1 year ago. Haruka comes into the room and mentions the two made plans to visit their graves today. Haruka prays to her mother and tells her not to worry, as living with Uncle Kiryu has been fun. She's even learned how to cook and shop for herself now. Kiryu prays to his adopted father, wondering why he's the only one still alive. But now that he's a civilian, he plans to go on living for Haruka. While praying, Yukio Terada, the 5th chairman of the Tojo clan, arrives. He comes to ask Kiryu for advice. After the events of the last year, the Tojo's infrastructure is in shambles, so Terada plans to swear an oath with Chairman Goda of the Omi Alliance to avoid a war. In their current state, they would be devoured by the Omi Alliance, and he asks Kiryu, the ex-4th chairman, how he would navigate the situation. But Kiryu chooses not to answer, as he's retired now, and it's not his place to interfere. Suddenly a shot echoes and Terada is wounded. Omi assassins from Kansai have arrived to kill the chairman. Kiryu defends him, but during the altercation, Terada jumps in front of Kiryu, taking a bullet for him. Before passing away, Terada hands Kiryu an envelope and asks him to take it to the Omi's chairman Goda, saying the two of them are cut from a different cloth. Haruka looks to Kiryu and tells him she can stay at the Sunflower Orphanage for a while, as she understands he has a job to do, and asks for Kiryu to come back to her once this is all over. Next, we go to the Tojo clan headquarters, where acting chairwoman Yaoi Dojima reads off Terada's letter to the others, a letter detailing Terada's oath of brotherhood with Chairman Jin Goda of the Omi Alliance. The Tojo clan heads argue on how they want to proceed, as some want to get revenge and find asking for an oath of brotherhood with those who murdered their leader preposterous. But others want to keep the status quo and avoid an all-out war. Kiryu tells Yayoi he feels the same. He plans to head to Kansai with Terada's letter, as it was his last request. But Kashiwagi doubts they'll agree to it. One slip up, and he can find himself dead. Kiryu tells everyone he's prepared for that, as he plans to trade his life for Goda's, depending on his response. Yayoi asks if Kiryu is still trying to atone for Dojima's murder 11 years ago. He says yes, as any debts left behind by Nishiki are his to pay now. As his last request, Kiryu wants to speak to Daigo Dojima, but Yayoi tells him her son is not the man he used to be. We cut to Kiryu finding Daigo Dojima in the red light district. After handling some of his goons in an alley, Kiryu speaks to Daigo and asks him to come back to the Tojo clan, as with Terada's death, a core pillar of the clan has been lost. Daigo is the only one who can restore it. After fighting it out, Kiryu gets Daigo to listen and asks him to hold down the fort while he's away. But Daigo disagrees and wishes to go with Kiryu as he has a score to settle in Kansai. He explains that 5 years ago he was set up in Kansai, causing his eventual departure from the Tojo clan. But if Kiryu wants him to return, he has to settle all accounts beforehand. On the train ride to Kansai, Dojima explains what happened 5 years ago. The Omi-Go Ryu clan was making regular visits to Kamurocho. Their plan was to prod their competitors in the Tojo clan until one of them came to Kansai. Daigo failed for the bait and flew out for a one-on fight with Ryuji Goda, the Omi Alliance chairman's son. But when he arrived, cops were waiting there instead, leading to his arrest and awful jail food for 5 years. Later that night, in Sotenbori, Kiryu runs into Ryuji Goda himself, relaxing at a cabaret club. After his men are causing a scene, Kiryu intervenes and impresses Ryuji. The two begin to talk, but there is tension in the air. He tells him that there's no way he could be the Dragon of Dojima, as he should be back at home preparing for war. Taunting Kiryu, Ryuji said he might as well tell him everything, since he's clearly not speaking to the Kiryu Kazuma. He says tonight, Kamurocho is going to see the biggest fireworks show they've ever seen. And that's only the opening ceremony. Because by then tomorrow, the Dragon of Dojima will be dead, and Ryuji Goda will be the one true dragon. He then stands up and tells Kiryu to kick back and relax, and tells him to enjoy his evening before leaving the building. Kiryu wonders what he could mean by fireworks. Then moments later, we cut to the top of the Millennium Tower exploding. The next day, we cut to police detective Koharu Sayama. At her police department, her chief, Besho, has been informed by the Tokyo PD that the Omi and Tojo are trying to negotiate. They want his department to take Kazuma Kiryu into custody. If the peace talks fail and Kiryu gets killed, there will be no stopping the bloodshed. Koharu offers to be Kiryu's bodyguard in hopes to gain more footing in the Kanto region while on assignment. But Besho worries and asks if she isn't sure she's still hung up on the Tojo clan, signaling the two have some sort of connection from the past. We cut back to Kiryu and Daigo standing outside of the Omi Alliance building. Daigo updates Kiryu that it was the Kazuma family office that was blown up last night, but it seems as though Patriarch Kashiwagi is alright. Daigo thinks it might have been the Omi again, but Kiryu tells him he's sure it was Ryuji Goda, letting him know that they met last night in Sotenbori. The two are then welcomed onto Omi grounds, and the meeting between officers and the Tojo clan representatives begins. At the center sits their chairman, Jin Goda, Ryuji's father. Jin introduces Ryo Takashima, chief director of the Omi headquarters. He took over Terada's chief of HQ position once he was gone. Ryo expresses what happened to Terada was extremely unfortunate, as he was his sworn brother. Daigo set off by his response, as he believes the Omi were the ones who killed Terada. Ryo calmly explains to him that yes, it was in the Omi's hands, but it was not the chairman's will. It's revealed that recent events involving the Tojo and Omi clans were not his orders. The one last year was headed by his son and Go-Ryu Patriarch Ryuji Goda. They suspect they were also responsible for Terada's death. In its current state, the Omi Alliance is 120 families and 35,000 men. The alliance has grown too large to control. The younger generation like Ryuji are taking matters into their own hands and don't listen to the superiors. Losing Terada was a huge blow. Chairman Goda feels now is the time to balance the power of East and West and uprooting the seeds of conflict. He wishes to see the Tojo clan rebuilt and offers Kiryu their help along the way. Kiryu then presents Terada's bloodstained letter, very much expressing the same thing, an alliance between Omi and Tojo. Chairman Goda agrees, but then the negotiations are interrupted when the Dragon of Kansai arrives.
8にいや91の間違いとちゃうんか。
お前何しに来た？お前は執行部の人間やない。
あ？何や？
俺を覚えているだろう。
知らん。
お前に5年前はめられた堂島宗平の息子大悟だよ。
知らんちゅうとるやろが。
杯なんて関係ねえ。俺はお前に借りを返さなきゃならねえんだよ。
雑魚なんぞ覚えてられるか。邪魔やねん。そこで寝とけ。
どないする気や？
やれ。
何をする？どういうことや？
お前ここどこだと思ってんだ？
何言うてまんねん。
近江連合の本部だぞ。
そないなことは分かっとりまんが。わしらはクーデターを起こしに来とんねやから。
なんだと？
今東上会さんにうちの親父と話させるわけにはいきませんねん。杯なんぞかわしてしもたわしの計画がパーや。
お前の狙いはやはり戦争なのか？
そうや、西と東の大戦争。それこそがわしの狙いや。それともう一つ。
俺か？
その通り、あんたの首や。悪いがその価値があるか試させてもらいますぜ。
Kiryu is able to escape the coup and make it outside of the offices alongside Chairman Goda. He tells Daigo to take Chairman Goda to the Tojo clan headquarters while he holds off Ryuji. The two dragons then brawl it out, but they're interrupted by the sounds of sirens approaching. Ryuji withdraws into the building, and an army of police officers swarm into the plaza. Detective Koaru walks up to Kiryu and tells him he is under arrest for assault. We then cut to Detective Date, called into the office by Police Chief Sudo. On his way, he bumps into a Detective Kawara. The two seem to have some sort of bad history, as he jokingly calls him Killer Kawara. There's an odd tension between the two, and Date tries to walk away, but Kawara tells Date that they're here for the same meeting and takes him to Sudo's location. At the meeting, Sudo introduces the two detectives to the Tokyo Police Chief Wataru Kurahashi, Foreign Affairs. They suspect a foreign mafia may be involved with the Terada murder. In the past year, they've been monitoring the Asian mafia. From what they could tell, something big was about to go down. Then one day a bomb is set off in the Millennium Tower. They were able to pick up a phone call that connects Ryuji Goda with the bombers, and their goal is to ID the bomber and the organization they're with. The reason they need Date in particular is because they need him to get close to a man he knows very well, owner of the Kamurocho Stardust Club, Kazuki. Ryuji only came to Kamurocho once 6 months ago to meet with Kazuki. Foreign Affairs know that his true name is Jinwoo Kang, a Korean. They want Date to apply a little pressure and figure out if he's Korean mafia, as after last year's events, Kazuki trusts Date implicitly. We then cut back to Koaru taking in Kiryu. After driving for some time, she says it should be safe. She then reveals to Kiryu that his arrest was just a cover, and she is taking him to protective custody. Give her the slip, and she will arrest him for real. Kiryu scowls and then notices a glint on top of a roof. A sniper. He quickly grabs Koaru and ducks down for cover. When he looks back up, the assassin is gone. Koaru is wounded, and Kiryu asks her where the nearest hospital is, but she instead gives him a name of a bar called Aioi in Sotenbori. He drives Koaru to the bar and enters it. The bar's owner thinks Kiryu's there to shake her down for protection money, but he quickly asks if she knows Koaru, as she is wounded and waiting in the car outside. The woman panics and demands Kiryu bring her in. Some time passes and Koaru has been treated. Kiryu and the older woman share a drink at the bar. Kiryu tells her he assumes she and Koaru are close, as this is the first place she mentioned to go to, and not an actual hospital. She says close is an understatement. Koaru is an orphan. Her parents died not long after she was born, so she raised her. Kiryu can relate to her, as he was an orphan as well. Koaru wakes up and interrupts the conversation. She simply calls the older woman Mama, and Kiryu asks how she's feeling, but she angrily responds that he has no reason to worry about her. Mama tells her to have some gratitude as this man carried her all this way, but Kaoru simply says she is not so far gone that she would be thanking a Yakuza. Mama's annoyed by her response, but Kiryu says it's okay. If she has that much fire in her, she'll be fine. Afterwards, Kiryu mentions that he's surprised that Ryuji Goto was able to put out a hit so quickly. But while looking at the bullet, Kaoru says an assassination isn't Ryuji's style. The Go-Ryu clan is simple and to the point. They muscle their way straight to their enemies and put them down. They wouldn't bother with the complexities of hiring a professional sniper. And looking at the size of the bullet, it seems their goal was to intimidate Kiryu and not shoot to kill. While Kaoru recovers, she recommends Kiryu take the bullet to one of her informants. There, it's revealed that the gun and the bullet type could only come from the Takashima family, Terada's replacement. It seems as though the Go-Ryu, Takashima, and Sengoku families are all after the Dragon of Dojima in some way. After gathering the information, Kiryu heads back to the bar and finds Kaoru fighting with her adoptive mother. Listening in, he learns that Kaoru took on the case to get closer to the Tojo clan, to find out what happened to her parents all those years ago. Kiryu walks into the room pretending he didn't hear anything. They are then called by Besho. He tells them that Daigo and Chairman Goto have been kidnapped by some foreigners. Their plates were traced back to Kamurocho. In Kamurocho, Kaoru almost passes out on the street due to a fever from her wound. Kiryu takes her to an old abandoned bar he used to frequent in the past, Serena. While she recovers, Kiryu heads to the Tojo clan headquarters to update everyone on what's transpired. On the way, Kiryu received an ominous phone call to meet at the Yamano building at 1 a.m., putting Daigo on the phone as bait. He then heads back to Kaoru's location with food and supplies. Since then, she's woken up from her fever and showered. While they have some time alone, Kiryu tells her that he knows she's using him to get close to the Tojo clan and find out more about her past. Since it's a Tojo clan issue, he was curious, so he let her follow him. Kaoru tells him one day she overheard Mama talking over the phone about her real parents. Overhearing the words, "The Tojo clan's what made Kaoru's life a living hell." Ever since then, Kaoru's been trying to find out the truth, even joining the police force, as Mama wouldn't tell her, and continuing to ask was tearing her up inside. Mama often telling her knowing the truth would not make her happier. Kiryu can relate, as he had a similar secret about his past, but when he found out the truth, he wishes he didn't. Some secrets are often better kept that way. But Kaoru disagrees, saying he's speaking like a man who knows his past, and Kiryu finds her response fair. Next, Kiryu and Kaoru head to Purgatory, a secret red light district disguised as the homeless camp. There, he hopes to meet the florist, a legendary information dealer who ran an operation there last year. But to his surprise, the area is now under construction, but it seems that the secret underground red light district is still operational. In the florist's old place, Kiryu finds Goro Majima, ex-Tojo clan. Majima is happy to see Kiryu, but is confused why he's being followed around by a police officer. Kiryu ignores his question and asks what he's doing down here. He simply explains, once the florist left the place after last year's events, he took over. The florist is now subcontracting for the police. Now all the cameras and networking he had prior work for them now. So after he left, Majima swooped in and took over the area. Majima then asks what brings Kiryu here. Kiryu then asks Majima to rejoin the Tojo clan, as they need him now more than ever. Without the Majima family, the Tojo clan is as good as dead. Majima tries to refuse his old friend, but he eventually gets to him on one condition: to fight in his underground tournament and win.
そろそろあの男がやってくるはずです。現地下闘技場チャンピオン真島五郎。半年前このリングに突如現れた島野の強肩は今もなお負けるということを知りません。度肝を抜く入場パフォーマンス、圧倒的な強さ。彼を倒すことができるのは果たして桐生なのでしょうか。今リングインです。
キルちゃんかっこいいやろ。
たくあんただけは読めねえ
さあ今度は正々堂々勝負しようやないか。
今ゴングです。
さすがキルちゃんや。相変わらずごっついな。
え。約束だ。登場会に戻ってくれ。
まあ祝いの酒でも飲みながらゆっくり話そうや。
After beating Majima in his tournament, Kiryu catches him up on current events. Terada always gave Majima a bad vibe, so he left when he took over, as he only ever surrounded himself with yes men. Kiryu wonders if Terada was truly that type of man, and Majima gives Kiryu some advice, to be wary of the people he can trust. Afterwards, Kiryu and Kaoru head back to the bar and wait for the 1 a.m. meeting. Before heading out, Kiryu asks Kaoru if she's afraid to find out the truth of her past. She's confused by his question and he explains. Last year, he learned that his parents were killed by the Tojo clan as well, by the very man who raised him and he looked up to, Shintaro Kazuma. In the end, Kiryu saw Kazuma as a father, so he was able to forgive him, but Kiryu wonders if she would be able to. Kaoru looks down at her gun and says she doesn't think she would be able to. No matter who it is, she's scared to find out the truth, but it's the road she's chosen. We then cut back to Date and Kawara visiting Kazuki at the Stardust Bar. There, Date tests Kazuki by giving him a tip that due to the recent bombing, the police are raiding buildings with possible connections to foreign mafia. They recommend closing up shop to avoid any issues. Kazuki thanks them for the information and proceeds to ask his customers to leave for their safety. Kawara believes if he is mafia, he will run off to his men and warn them. The two detectives pretend to be distracted and notice Kazuki sprint out the back door of the building. The detectives quickly follow, leading them to the rooftop of the Amano building. It is now 1 a.m. and Kiryu arrives at the same time to find the detectives staring back at two Kazukis. Kiryu asks what the hell is going on, but the detectives are just as confused. One of the Kazukis quickly mentions they had him locked up, and when he came to, he was in this location. The other says that's a lie, as he was dragged up here by gunpoint by the other. Date asks why Kiryu is here, and he tells him he was told to be here at 1 o'clock. Everyone then realizes this is clearly a trap. Kawara then begins to point his gun at the Kazuki they followed, recognizing him by the sound of his voice. Date then points a gun at Kawara, telling him he can't just kill someone on intuition. The two detectives begin to argue, and the fake Kazuki pulls out two guns, shooting Kawara and Kazuki. The assassin reveals that he was the one who called Kiryu. They plan to kill the investigators and Kiryu in one swoop, then cover it up as a shootout between both parties. Things look dire until Kaoru arrives and shoots the assassin dead while he was distracted. She had heard the earlier gunshots and followed Kiryu onto the roof. After checking the man's pulse, sirens go off and everyone agrees to lay low, as something was off with the whole situation. While Kaoru takes Kawara and Kazuki to get medical attention, Date and Kiryu lay low at a bar. The topic of Kawara and his trigger-happy nature comes up. About 15 years ago, Date was a rookie and was paired up with Kawara to track down an illegal alien murder suspect. The men resisted and Kawara mowed them down without question. Date was furious and asks how he could do such a thing without any remorse. He simply told them, "They left me no choice. This is on them." Kawara's reputation of killing illegal aliens continued, swept under the rug as self-defense, until he was eventually kicked out of the division, giving him the nickname Killer Kawara. Kiryu believes Kawara is carrying some deep scars, and Date agrees. as it's not like he just simply hates foreigners. There is more going on, but he never pried further. At the clinic, Kawara and Kawaru talk while Kazuki's being operated on. He gives her a harsh time for smoking and not acting more ladylike. The two argue a bit, and she wonders what's his obsession with her. They look at each other for an awkward moment, until Kiryu walks in and breaks up the silence. He asks for an update on Kazuki, but then two large men rush into the surgery room looking for a man named Kang. Once they realize they got the wrong man, the thugs try to leave, punching Kawaru as she tries to stop them. Kiryu, angered, beats the men to a pulp. Kawara then threatens to shoot and kill the men if they don't give him more information. Fearing for their lives, they give him a name: the Jing-1 Mafia. Back at the bar, Date suggests it isn't safe in their current location to discuss matters further and they should head back to the Serena. When Kiryu arrives, he has bad news. Date is being framed for the murder of the man on the roof. We then cut to a meeting between Police Division 1-4 and Foreign Affairs, reviewing the footage that makes Date look guilty. Division 1 wants Date brought in to prevent a scandal, even though he was only investigating at Division 4 and Foreign Affairs request. It's revealed during the meeting that there's been a resurgence of Jing-1 survivors in Kamurocho in the past 6 months. Division 1's chief understands their logic, using Date to get close to Kazuki, a possible Jing-1 suspect. But the result now is that he must be brought in immediately. Also, Division 1 is taking over the investigation. Division 4 and Foreign Affairs are now off the case. Next, Kiryu and Kawaru go to see the florist, who now works for the police department, believing he's the source of the footage incriminating Date. He could be useful in tracking down Daigo's true location. The florist is now located inside of the Millennium Tower, and there he reveals to Kiryu that the footage that leaked out to incriminate Date was submitted behind his back. As it's clear, the footage is angled in a particular way so it makes Date look like the shooter, even though it was truly Kawaru from the side. He takes the two off to the side where no one can hear and tells them his operation is currently compromised. His suspicions arose when the Kazuma office bomb happened only a few floors up. Something like that he should have been able to see from a mile away. There is a constant 24-hour surveillance on Kamurocho, but the florist expresses he does have to sleep. He currently has no idea who the traitor is. While discussing the rat problem, one of the florist's men find footage on Daigo's location. But before they can track the area, power is cut from the building. It seems as though masked men are attacking the Millennium Tower's transformer room, causing the blackout. Kiryu heads downstairs to deal with the saboteurs, learning that they were sent in by Ryuji to bust up the place. Once the power is back up, Kawaru uses her programming skills to help ward off a hacking attempt. Daigo is then tracked down to being held in a room in Shangri-La, an abandoned soapland in Kamurocho. Kiryu and Kawaru fight their way through the soapland and save Daigo Dojima. He apologizes for being captured and tells everyone that Chairman Goda was taken someplace else. Back at the Serena, Daigo confirms that it was the Jing-1 Mafia that kidnapped him and Goda. Kashiwagi knows of them, but they were wiped out a long time ago. Kawaru called HQ and was unable to find any record of their existence. Kashiwagi believes it's because they've been wiped from the record. He explains that over 20 years ago, the Dojima family stood against foreign factions all over Kamurocho. Their biggest threat was the Jing-1 Mafia. So the Dojima family made a plan to wipe out the Mafia members in a single night. Kazuma, Kiryu's father figure, was reluctant to go with the plan, but listened to his patriarch's orders. After that, the Dojima family became the de facto force of power in Kamurocho. Daigo summarizes that there may have been some survivors of the raids, and now they have allied with the Goryu clan. It seems as they have enemies everywhere. Goda's kidnappers, the Goryu clan wanting Kamurocho, the traitor who set up Date, and now the ghosts of the Jing-1 Mafia. The group wonders who will make their next move.